My name's Linda. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I would say that my childhood was full of a lot of internal struggles. It's not easy for my parents who raised 3 kids on their own in a foreign country as immigrants, and they didn't even speak the language at all. So when my parents would fight a lot, there would be a lot of tension. And when they were fighting, there was a lot of yelling. And of course, I'm not trying to say that it was just bad, because there was definitely really good times in my childhood too. But when my parents would fight, because of a lot of tension and stress that they had, I remember I was so afraid. I was so afraid because I thought they were going to separate, and I thought that my family unit was going to dissolve in front of my eyes. And I remember asking my parents, "Are you going to get a divorce?" And every time I would ask that, they would say, "No, we're staying together for you guys." You guys meaning me and my brothers. And I guess they said that to reassure me that everything was okay, but actually what that did for me internally was I internalized all of their struggles. I'm the oldest child, so I internalized all of their struggles, and it fueled a lot of anger inside of me from that point on. Because what that did was I thought, oh my God, I'm the problem. They're only together because I exist. So if I didn't exist, my parents could be happy living their separate lives, but it's because of me that they can't even separate, and they have to be miserable in this unhappy marriage. So this thought that I was the problem played in my head over and over and over again, and it was the beginning of a very dark time filled with self-sabotage and hate. But when I turned 18 and I went away to college, I moved out of my parents' house away and went to college. That's when the volcano exploded. I would pick fights with people for no reason. I drank every day until I blacked out. I would try to indulge in every sensory pleasure to numb this pain that I felt inside. But the interesting thing that I found was the more I tried to numb this pain, the emptier I felt. I remember walking around always, my whole life, I felt like I had a huge gaping hole inside of me. And no matter what I did to try to fill that hole, I was feeling emptier and emptier, lonelier and lonelier. So I would act more aggressively, I would act more obnoxiously, more loudly to create a facade that I could hide behind, because I didn't want people to see through that thick wall I had made and see that I was a real empty shell walking inside. I remember feeling so alone. I felt like I was screaming and no one was listening. I thought I was the only one experiencing what I was going through. Ironically, my parents gave me that kind of trauma, but at the same time, it was my parents who saved me. So my mom, she started this practice, this yoga practice that I could see completely changed her. She turned into a really positive person. She was doing something, I don't know what it was, but she was doing something that made her a very positive, bright person. And that practice was called Body and Brain Yoga. And in Body and Brain Yoga, they taught her something called brain education. And brain education is what helped her change her life so that she could create her own health, happiness, and peace, regardless of external circumstances. My mom recommended that I go to a workshop in Sedona, Arizona, and little did I know that these 3 days would be the start of something completely new in my life. It was these 3 days that changed everything for me. I was 22 at the time, and it was a camp for young people. All the other people who were in kind of similar situations as me. They were wandering, they didn't have a direction, they were searching for something, but they didn't know what. So we gathered together, and what I felt here is something I will never forget. I remember that I connected with them, not only them, but for the first time in my life, I connected with something inside of myself. And that big gaping hole that I felt in my chest was starting to fill up just a little. And I remember, I'll never forget this because it was so shocking to me. I was searching my whole life, doing all these things, all these sensory pleasures that told me would fill my hole inside my heart, but they never did. But what I experienced here, the energy that made me connect to them and connect to myself, from the philosophy of brain education, from the study of brain education, that is what started to fill that hole that was in my chest my whole entire life. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew I wanted to dive fully, deeply into brain education to see if there was any way that I could do the impossible, which was make my heart feel full for the first time in my life. From that point on, I dove in fully to learning about brain education. It's been 6 years since then, and the me that I feel and can see now is a total 180 degrees different from the person that I used to be. And for one thing, I would say the most important thing that I learned from brain education was I used to live a life where I didn't respect myself or respect others, and I thought that I shouldn't exist, that my existence had no meaning, and that I was better off dead. But now through brain education, I discovered my value, that my life has meaning and purpose, and that I do deserve to exist, and that I should respect myself. And because I respect myself, I respect other people too. So it gave me this sense that I matter, that despite all of my troubles, all of my problems, all of my trauma, all of the things that I thought were negative and made me feel like I should not be here, were actually beautiful things that could become foundations for me to grow into a person that could share my story, that could inspire change in other people, and that I can awaken other people's value inside of them who feel in similar situations or in the same situation that I was once in. So what I can say now after taking brain education is that 1, I discovered my value. 2, I learned to respect myself without abusing alcohol, without abusing drugs, without doing all the things that I was doing to harm my body. I learned to respect myself, and I found my voice, I found my purpose, I found my soul family, I found my tribe, and ultimately I found myself. And the key is inside of your brain. The secret is your brain. And I hope that it inspires you to take action and to find yourself, find your brain.